Hey everyone, welcome back to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's May 2nd, it's Thursday, and we got a little bit of split baseball here. We got 3 early games, 8 late games. We're going to briefly go over these 3 early games here, really focus on the late slate, though. Not a lot of pitching, so a lot to talk about in that late slate. A lot of good pitching here in this morning slate. And one of the writers here at Roto Grinders, you guys may have not seen him before, and one of my good friends here at Roto Grinders, Luis Cards. How you doing, my friend?
Doing pretty good. Like you said, all the pitching is early. Late slate's going to be pretty ugly, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, early slate, there's some good options here. Late slate, you know, I hate saying this, but like throw a dart at a dartboard, right?
Yeah, it feels that way. You take out the cores guys and then try to figure out who's the best of the rest, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll break it down where you won't have to throw darts. And but before we get started here, make sure you guys check out our sponsor over at fantasydraft.com. You'll notice the new intro here for the Morning Grind podcast. It's new as of today. If you guys like playing or like listening to the podcast, make sure you guys check out Fantasy Draft and use promo code Grinders. That way you guys get incentives here at Roto Grinders for free for a year for Fantasy Draft, and you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. So make sure you check them out. They got their $7,500 home run here on this Thursday late slate, so we're definitely going to have some plays for that. But let's talk about this early slate. It's only 3 games, but it's an interesting slate. We got Madison Bumgarner at Atlanta. Definitely probably the top arm on the board here.
Yeah, by far the best guy going today against one of the worst hitting teams in the league. I mean, he does it all. So he's got the high K rate. The Braves are dead last in WOBA and weighted runs created plus. There's no reason if you're playing in the early slate that you would fade him. He's got to be in pretty much every lineup you make, in my opinion.
Yeah, when we were looking at the Braves, pretty much bottom against lefties in every statistics. No power, strike out a ton, no WRC plus, lowest WOBA, just lowest stats across the board. And then you get an ace like Bumgarner. This could be easily a game where he goes out and throws a complete game shutout. And I don't think that's a far-fetched projection here for him. Now, on the other side of this game, we have Aaron Blair, the righty who a little bit over a hit per inning, but no strikeout upside here for Blair. This should be a guy that the Giants are able to give Bumgarner some run support against.
Yeah, I think so. We got a pretty small sample on him so far, but so far it hasn't been very good against left-handed bats with WOBA over 400 allowed. So I think this Giants team, who doesn't strike out a lot, they put the ball in play. It's a tough matchup for him. So, yeah, we should see some runs in favor of Bumgarner here for that win bonus. And I think, like we said, you don't really want to pitch Blair. You probably want to pick on him here.
Yeah, I think that we can look at guys like Span, Belt, Panic, Crawford, always a guy that I love in tournaments at shortstop. If you're playing on FanDuel, these guys are pretty cheap, so I don't mind going like 3 Giants bats with Bumgarner and just kind of filling in the rest.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Belt is one of those guys I like to write up a lot. I think probably more than most. I think he's a bit underrated in real life and in fantasy. He's been a little bit more hot lately, so he's picking up a little bit on the ownership percentage, but overall, he's a guy that I look to a lot.
Yep, as well. I'm not going to take any bats against Bumgarner. Just not going to do it here.
No, not even on a small slate like this. It just doesn't make sense with this Braves team.
Zach Greinke, Dallas Keuchel, when we're thinking Greinke, he's pitched better after, 3 rough starts to start the season. If we can get him outside of Chase Field, I feel like he's always in play outside of Chase. But do we really want to target him here against Houston?
You know, it's interesting. He's shown signs of life. Like his Ks were up. He had been limiting runs. And then his last time out against the Padres, he couldn't strike anybody out. And I think he ended up with giving up maybe like 4 runs or something like that. There's K potential against the Astros, but there's also potential to get blown up by this lineup. So it's tough. He's more of a GPP type play. There is potential for the high Ks. I wouldn't run him out in cash games, though.
No, I definitely agree there. I feel if you want to be different with your Giants stack, use Greinke over Bumgarner. You're going to get a little bit of a discount. You'll be able to get that fourth Giants bat in. But then you're just playing game theory, thinking that Bumgarner is going to be 50, 60% owned. Greinke probably going to be in that 20%, 25% range. And you're just hoping at that point that Greinke kind of matches Bumgarner.
Yeah, pretty much. I will say that on second or multiple pitcher sites where Greinke is going to be more in play, obviously, than like a FanDuel where you only get one pitcher. So, yeah, absolutely.
I definitely agree. Dallas Keuchel, last season, a lot of, almost for the last 2 seasons, at home he's been untouchable, but I just don't think Dallas Keuchel is right. I think maybe these teams have figured him out. Looking at the statistics and everything, it's saying that he's getting unlucky, but when you watch him pitch, everything's getting hit.
Yeah, so the thing is, he still has a high ground ball percentage, but the problem is he's got a high BABIP, and to go with it, he's got a hard hit rate that's up about 10% over the past couple of years. So there's some, in some regard, you would say, yeah, he's getting a little unlucky because he has such a high BABIP. But at the same time, if he's getting hard hit that much, maybe it isn't unlucky. He just, like you said, he doesn't look right. When you watch him pitch, he isn't the same guy that it just has that devastating, cut to that pitch. And it just, I don't know what it is, but he's not the same guy and nowhere near the Cy Young form that we saw last season. Not a guy that I want to really put out there on my roster.
Yeah, I think the most concerning thing for me here with Keuchel is his whip is way up. When you see almost a half a point increase, that just instantly makes me want to stay away from a guy. The walks are way up. Now, Arizona, not really a team that can go really right-handed heavy. If you're playing on a 2-pitcher site and Keuchel's cheap, I could see maybe in a tournament, not in cash games. You're still worrying about Goldschmidt and Segura and some of the Beef Castillo, all these guys. Maybe you could even throw in Tomas. So you still have to worry about some of these righties. But I still think Keuchel might be an interesting tournament play.
Only because it's 3 games, right? If it wasn't 3 game slate, then for me he wouldn't be interesting at all. But when you put it that way, GPP, I guess. For the most part, I would pretty much avoid him, to be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty much a 3-game thing. So if you're playing on DraftKings or Fantasy Draft and you're needing that second pitcher and you just want to be different, that's the only spot, and only in the tournament.
Yeah.
Bats in this game, I pretty much like, Goldschmidt and these guys, Segura, Beef, all these guys I think are in play here.
Yeah, absolutely. You can pretty much play any of the same right-handed bats that you're going to play from Arizona anytime. Like you said, Segura, Goldie, Tomas even, he's struggling. He looks bad at the plate, but he still has that pop in the bat where if Keuchel just doesn't have it going, where chasing doesn't matter, because that's what Tomas does. He chases really bad pitches. Then, he's got the pop to someone out. So I don't mind him at all either.
Yeah, when you're looking at a 3-game slate, you got to be different somewhere. And I think that stacking in this game against Greinke is going to be very different. And really, it's a tournament play only. But like you said, it's going to be one of those games where Greinke pitches really good, but there's blow-up potential. I want that tournament upside blow-up potential with guys like Correa, Springer, Gaddis, even Altuve, just to be different on a 3-game slate. Tournament only, and just to, like I said, just playing some game theory here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, he's been up and down, so I don't mind at all having an Astros stack in a tournament. And I would even throw in a guy like Valbuena, who's looked a lot better at the plate over the past, let's say, week or 2. I think he's finally got that whatever it was that was going on in the beginning of the season, he's figured it out a bit. He's always had like a long swing where he, it's boom or bust, but he's a big bat, and I don't mind him here.
Moving on to the last game of this little 30-man early slate, Los Angeles Dodgers, Chicago Cubs, Kyle Hendricks, and it's not Kenta Maeda. So if you're looking at the slate, and he's still up there, make sure you do not play him. It's going to be Julio Herreras, and this guy has some talent, but he struggled in his first start. Can you go back to the well here?
It's interesting because he has all the talent in the world, but he's super young too. So I think that's one of the things that people need to, take into account. It was his first start ever. He had to have been nervous. The problem here is he's facing a Cubs team that, even if all those things, don't pan out to be this, what was the issue was. He had 4 walks in 2 2/3 inning. I don't know if we can do it against the Cubs. That's the only problem. I think he, the K's upside's there. He had 3 Ks in the 2 2/3. It's just the 5 hits and 4 walks is where that's a bit troublesome, And this Cubs team doesn't mess around, so they can put up a bunch of runs in a hurry. I don't personally think you go back to the well until you see him play the way up to his potential, at least somewhat.
Yeah, honestly, I was excited about him getting the start Friday against the Braves. I thought that would have been a much easier matchup for him, but Maeda getting pushed back a day and him getting pushed up a day, I just don't know if I could do it. I'm with you here. When we're looking at the Cubs against lefties, they're 7th in WRC plus against lefties. They strike out 20% of the time, but that's probably below league average if we're looking at it. So I can't do it here against the Cubs. Guys like Fowler, Bryant, Zobrist, these guys scare me. And even Rizzo hits lefties. So like you said, the walks are concerning. Maybe that was nerves in his first start, but the Cubs are much better than the Mets. I just don't know if I can do it.
Yeah, I'm on board with you there. The Cubs are the Cubs and the Mets profile pretty similar in the fact that they can blow up teams. The Cubs just do it more often. So yeah, absolutely.
Kyle Hendricks, on the other hand, when we're looking at him, good ground ball rate, a guy that really limits the damage. His biggest issue is he doesn't pitch deep into ball games. And, I don't know if they're just being careful with his innings this season or they're playing for, the World Series, because obviously, the Cubs are definitely one of the favorites to make it to the World Series this year. They're really limiting him. And we'll see starts where he'll go out and throw 80, and we'll see starts where he'll go out and throw 95. And for that reason alone, he could go out and dominate this game, but I'm still just not going to have exposure to him here. Just the pitch count being a worry just in general.
Yeah, generally that is how I feel about Hendricks. He's one of those pitchers that I think is way better than people realize. This is a guy with like a 50% ground ball rate, career 3.5 exit Sierra. His hard hit is mid-20s, K percentage low 20s, but overall he's a really good pitcher. But like you said, typically you don't want to face or put him out there too often because of the issue with not going deep into games. On a 3-game slate like this, I worry about that a little less as he becomes more attractive to me. I think as a secondary pitcher, he makes a good cash game play today, honestly. And even in tournaments, if you're trying to be different, or actually I feel like he might actually be somewhat popular on multiple pitcher sites today. But for me, Hendricks is in play. I like him.
Yeah, okay, so the thing that concerns me the most about Hendricks here is on the 28th of May, he threw 104 pitches in a complete game against Philadelphia. The last time he threw over 100 pitches, he came out and threw 82 pitches. So I really worry about the pitch count. I probably shouldn't. Like you said, it's a 3-game slate. But on the flip side of that, if I'm right and he only goes out and throws 5 or 6 innings and he's really popular, like on a site like DK, you pay the extra $2K for a guy like Greinke. Greinke, throws an 8-inning game against Houston and racks up the strikeouts. You're going to be way, way ahead of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't hate that at all. I just think for me personally, it's crazy, but I think Hendricks might be the safer play between the two just because of the potential with that Astros lineup. When you're talking about GPPs, what you said makes perfect sense. So.
Yeah, honestly, though, if I knew Hendricks was going to be fine for 95 pitches at the minimum, I would all over him. Because I agree with you. I think he's a lot better than what people think. This guy is Look at his BABIP in games this season. It's only 255. The guy is legit. A .33 home run per nine this season is no joke. That's elite numbers. That's when we're looking at it, that's better than Scherzer's home run per nine. This guy has elite numbers when it comes to limiting damage. So I do like him in that aspect. So I agree with you there. Bats in this game. I'm going to stack up the Cubs here against this young guy. I'm going to throw out Fowler, Zobrist, Bryant. I think Rizzo will be low-owned in tournaments because it's a lefty-lefty, and he hits lefties well. I would not leave Rizzo out of my stack.
I'm with you there. I think far too often people just assume left versus left matchup is not a good thing. And for some guys, it's just as good or pretty close to what they do against righties. Rizzo's a guy that he's a professional hitter. He will put the ball in play if he has to, wherever, if he needs to go opposite field. He reminds me of a lot of Yadi, except he's got obviously more power than Yadi, but he'll just do whatever it takes to help his team win. And that's why he hits lefties so good, because he takes a different approach than most guys. He's not trying to pull the ball every single time. He's doing what it takes. And with this lineup, you can go, 1 through 6, 1 through 7, that pretty much any guy, pick them out and you can put them in play.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, looking at the Cubs side of things, Dodgers side of things, one bat that instantly stands out to me, especially at his price on FanDuel, is Corey Seager at 3,500. There is no pitcher in baseball right now, because Kershaw is on the same team as Seager, that I would not take Seager against. This kid is legit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy because he seems like he might be a little underrated to me. Like, for how good he really is, I don't read a whole lot about him. But he's really good. Yeah, absolutely. He's in play 100%. And you can make a case for, Peterson and Utley and all these guys. If you're not going to go with Hendricks, then 1 through 4, it depends. We'll have to see what the lineup is, but Gonzalez, they might go with what they did against Arrieta with the Utley, Seager, Gonzalez, Peterson up top. And, that's going to be hard back to back to back trying to shut those guys down. So if you're not on Hendricks, then you probably should get some of the lefty bats in there.
Yeah, and pay attention to the wind in Wrigley. We're recording the podcast the night before, like everybody knows. Right now, it's blowing out to right field at about 7 to 8 miles an hour throughout the game. If that goes up to 12, 13, 14, you're going to see the Vegas total on this game climb, and just load up on some bats here. Or fade it, because, it's a 3-game slate. So, we like that first game a lot. So you don't have to stack Wrigley if the wind's blowing out in the tournament, because it's going to be really popular. Let's talk this late slate here. We got an interesting late slate. We kind of alluded to it when we got started here. The pitching in this slate is just rough. So that's why we're here. We're here to help people out. So let's start it off with Boston and Baltimore. We definitely don't want these two pitchers, do we? Rick Porcello, Ubaldo Jimenez. Just looking at the Red Sox and Baltimore game on Wednesday night, they hit everything that was thrown at them.
Yeah, it's pretty insane how good the Red Sox are offensively. I think with how good the Cubs have been, it was overshadowed a bit. It's starting to come to the point where we're seeing their ownership climb quite a bit with, Bradley and Bogart's hitting streaks, and now Betts has become this huge home run monster all of a sudden. Ortiz is like the guy that found the fountain of youth. He's been absolutely fantastic all season long. This Red Sox team can mash, just flat out mash up and down the lineup. I like the fact that, even deep into, like Bradley, he's been hitting down in the lineup for most of the year. Even deep into the lineup, you're getting guys where they will do the damage still. So, and then you got a guy like Travis Shaw, who is overlooked quite a bit too, for what he's done. So absolutely love this Red Sox offense. They're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and if you want to pivot off cores in a tournament here on this slate, this is definitely the team I'm doing it with. Boston, I just expect them to score a lot of runs here against Zavado. What's your thoughts on Porcello? He's looked good this season, but do we really want to target him? You know, Baltimore's come back home and they found their bats again. So do we really want to target him here against Baltimore?
You know, I think typically where we would have a couple of other really solid options, I'd be like, probably not. But today, when we're talking about Carrasco and man, outside of Carrasco, I really am lost with pitch. Not lost, but I just don't like it. So Porcello, who his K percentage is up, it bounced up when he came to the Red Sox last year, and it's even a little bit higher this year. He keeps the walks to a minimum. His BABIP has been respectable. But like you said, it's Baltimore, and they're a team that just can crush the ball as well, as you see Wednesday night with that high scoring game. I think ultimately we have to keep him in mind. Probably more secondary pitcher, and I want to say tournament, but I'm having trouble figuring out where I'm going to go if I'm not having him as a secondary guy.
Yeah, so. It's rough. He's definitely a guy that we want to, when we're looking at the slate, there might be 4 or 5 guys that we take a shot on, and he's one of those guys. I definitely agree. There's a ton of downside to him. He's risky. But the thing about this slate, we don't have 2 safe cash pitchers to tell you to just lock into your lineup. On Wednesday night, you could lock in, Lester and Scherzer, and you knew that you had 2 good elite arms. And there's not that on this slate. Even Carrasco, he probably has the highest upside on this slate, but he's facing Kansas City after coming off the DL, so he's not even safe. So there's nothing safe about this late slate about pitching. So you're going to have to take some risk. If you're going to take some risk, why not do it with a guy like Porcello, who has shown a lot of promise this season? When we're looking at his stats and stuff, the ground ball rate is back up to where he was with the Tigers a few years ago. The hard contact rate is back down. Just everything's pointing back to him getting stuff figured out. Now, it's still a risky matchup, but the one thing that I do like about Porcello is I expect him to get a lot of run support here. I love the Red Sox bats, like we mentioned. 1 through 7, I think, is in play for Boston. And I don't have to pinpoint anybody, but Mookie Betts is hot. You're either going to want to play him in a good portion of your lineups, or you're just going to want to fade him and hope that he stops hitting the ball over the fence.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been pretty incredible. I like tonight, or when we're doing this Wednesday night, one of my favorite things in baseball is when a pitcher almost hits a hitter and then he hits the home run off of him. And that happened with Betts on his second home run tonight. So love to see that. Betts, this is a little, you wouldn't expect this, I guess, from Betts. And actually, you wouldn't expect it from anybody at this many home runs. And clearly is unsustainable. But it's hard to fade a guy when he is squaring the ball up like that.
Yeah, even if we take the home runs out, multiple hits in 4 straight games now. So, even if you take the home runs out, the production is still there. And the thing that tells me that he's seeing the ball well, he has multiple walks in 2 of those last 4 games as well. So not only is he getting multiple hits, he's multiple walking. That means he's seeing the ball well. Outlier stats, whatever you want to look at, he's seeing the ball well. I like him a lot. We wanted to target some of these bats here against Porcello. Do you like anybody here?
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing. It's hard to say because on one side I want to play Porcello, but then when you look at it, yeah, there's plenty to like about Baltimore. Machado, who is probably going to be one of the MVP candidates for the year. Trumbo can still hit anybody, and Chris Davis, who has been very quiet. I think he might have had 4 walks tonight. I can't remember if I read that right. But those are all guys in play, and then you got anybody you can throw in, like a Kim, a Jones. I don't mind those guys. It's dangerous because I want to play Porcello, but at the same time, I want to get exposure to some of these guys. I don't know. Right now, I think it might come down to pricing on each site and just building out and seeing how we feel about our lineup overall, I guess.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I watch quite a bit of Red Sox games. Porcello is more of a low. He pounds the low zone, for what I can remember. If that's true, and I have to dig into it a little bit more, but if that's true, that's the type of pitchers that Chris Davis just mashes. Low ball pitchers. So I'm like 95% sure that this is going to be a good matchup for Chris Davis. I want to dig into it a little bit more, but I'm almost positive that this is a matchup where Chris Davis should excel. So I like Chris Davis a lot here in tournaments. And, I pretty much agree with what you said. So let's move on to Milwaukee at Philadelphia. Jerad Eickhoff, Chase Anderson. Chase Anderson's not scaring anybody here. Man, this guy, we want to target pitchers against Philadelphia, but Chase Anderson giving up over a hit per inning this season, he's a guy that we could target here with some Philadelphia bats, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy because, like you said, it's all the teams you want to pick on. They're just not necessarily the best pitchers on the mound against them. Anderson is, like you said, not a very good pitcher. Philly, it's just hard to really like anybody except for like a guy like Herrera. Tommy Joseph has been pretty solid early on. Hernandez can steal a bag. So I guess if you're going to go that route, you want guys in the front of the order with like Herrera and Hernandez that can swipe a bag, and then maybe like a Rupp if he's super cheap somewhere who's been hitting the ball pretty decent.
Yeah, I like Rupp a lot. I definitely agree with you there. I like Franco if he's back in the lineup. He has the power upside. We do want to note we won't see it here on this Thursday slate, but it's something to watch Friday and then going into the weekend. Jimmy Paredes was actually traded to Philadelphia. That's going to give them a decent power left-handed bat, maybe in that 3, 4, 5 spot. I like that trade for them.
I do too. I think, and he will be. I'm hoping we'll have to see where they put him in the lineup, but I think he'll actually be, somebody you can use in DFS with his price point and all that. So we'll see. I like it.
Jerad Eickhoff, a guy that's interesting to me on this slate. It really comes down to what kind of lineup we see for Milwaukee. If they go right-handed heavy here against him, which they don't have a lot of lefties anyway in this lineup, but if they get 5, 6, 7 righties in this lineup, Eickhoff is really good against righties, and I think he'd be an interesting play on a 2-pitcher site. I don't know if I could do it on FanDuel, but on a 2-pitcher site, if they roll out a lot of righties, I think he's interesting.
Yeah, so the Brewers are a team that you've kind of been able to pick on a little bit with pitching. Normally you want a guy that's a little bit more stable than Eickhoff, but he is coming off a pretty good game against the Cubs, I believe it was, where he pitched deep into the game. I think he did give up maybe 3 or 4 runs in that game, but he did strike out a bunch as well, like 6 or 7 guys. So it's kind of give or take with him. Again, that's the Cubs lineup, not the Brewers. So Eickhoff is actually a guy, like you said, as a secondary option you have to at least consider tonight.
Yeah, really bad against lefties. So I don't mind targeting guys like Scooter, maybe Neuenhuis in a tournament, because he's bad against lefties. I'm not going to go out of my way here to pick on Eickhoff, but like I said, if we see like their normal lineup with Braun, Lucroy, Carter, Hill, these guys in it, and we see some righties here, I'm definitely going to roll the dice just because we don't have, like I said, we don't really have safe options here. Any bats that you want to mention here on Milwaukee?
I mean, the guys just that you would typically play in a GPP probably because you're not really starting. I mean, Braun is a guy who's been hitting the ball really well this season, so he's, I think, always in play, kind of, especially in this kind of a matchup. But like your Carters and your VR Hill, even, like, I don't know what's happened to him, but he started hitting the ball hard again. They're all tournament plays for me, except Braun you could consider in cash if you're not going with Eickhoff as a guy, but not really. I don't have a whole lot of love for these guys. I don't even know that I'll be playing a lot of them in the tournaments, even though, up top at shortstop. That's a pretty good play most nights, and Eichhoff's not a world beater, so I don't hate that play.
Pittsburgh at Miami, Chen against Nicasio here. Another guy that I find interesting on the slate, and it's really a fantasy draft play, is Nicasio. He's 13-6, which puts him almost, I think, the 7th cheapest pitcher on the slate. Like, 13-6 is ridiculously cheap for a guy. And when we look at Nicasio, he's really good against righties, awful against lefties, just beyond awful against lefties. So the thing is, like, Derek Dietrich got hit in the hand on Wednesday. If he's out of the lineup, that's a bat that, like Nicasio would struggle against. And then it really leaves you down to guys like, Bohr, other lefties in this lineup. I really can't, Ichiro and Bohr would be your two biggest concerns for a guy like Nicasio who has, pretty good strikeout numbers against righties.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have to get around Yelich and Bohr. I think
Yelich.
Yelich. And I don't think, like you said, I don't think that should be too tough. The only worry is like guys like Ozuna and Stanton. I know Stanton's been bad, but Ozuna's been good. I know he's got good numbers against righties. They still do worry me sitting there in the middle. If Yelich can get in front, get on base or in front of him. So overall, another guy we definitely have to consider, and he's probably one of the top secondary options that you would consider on the night. When you look at all of our options, I'd say he's slightly above even Eichhoff, in my opinion. But not another guy I don't absolutely love either. So,
yeah, the biggest concern outside of just the matchup, he really struggled in May. Hopefully June might be a new turning point for him. He does get a good matchup here in a great ballpark for pitchers. So, I definitely worry about guys like Bohr and Yelich, for some sense. And like you mentioned, Ozuna has been really good this season. But I think Nicasio is definitely in play. Now, Chen, on the other hand, he struggles against righties. And he struggles against righties quite a bit. And he's going to see a lot of righties in this lineup. I want nothing to do with Chen. What's your thoughts?
Same thing, even in a big ballpark. This is a Pittsburgh team is built to crush left-handed pitching, and like you said, he struggles against right-handed bats. I really like the Pirates as a stack overall, and we mentioned earlier, if you're trying to get some exposure outside of Coors. I don't know if it's that great of an idea with the pitching that's going on there, but if you are and you're building multiple lineups, then the Pirates make a lot of sense to me on this slate.
Yeah, I talked about it on the podcast yesterday, when we were doing the podcast with Pepsi. Adam Conley is a guy that has some reverse splits where he's actually really good against righties, and I didn't want to really target the Pirates too much outside of a couple of the power bats. This is the exact opposite. Chen, 31% hard contact rate, 344 WOBA, 306 BABIP, fly ball pitcher. This is a guy we can look at these Pirates bats. So every day, there's 3 guys that I always target on Fantasy Draft for you guys that are just underpriced. And my first one actually comes from the Pirates, and it's Jordy Mercer at 6,400. Nobody plays shortstops on draft, but when you get a guy that's batting leadoff at 6,400 in this good of a matchup, Mercer's definitely a guy that I want to look at here. Pirates bats that you like here, Andrew.
Yeah, I just want to start by saying that's Dean approved, by the way. Jordan Mercer
always.
Yeah, so another guy that I like that people just hate on all the time because he was hitting third, fourth in the lineup all year, even against right-handed pitching, is David Freese. He hits lefties well. He's probably going to be batting third or fourth, and normally can be found pretty cheap across the industry. He's not a great player by any stretch, but against left-handed pitching, he is pretty solid. So outside of your McCutchen, Marte, even Harrison is in play. But I like David Freese as well as your Jordy Mercer play.
Depending on what goes on with Polanco, if Sean Rodriguez gets a decent lineup spot again, tournament upside, home run power, good matchup here. I don't mind Rodriguez as a tournament play. Now, looking at the Marlins bats, I do like Nicasio, but I don't mind, taking a shot on maybe Yelich and Bour in tournaments. And like you said, Ozuna's hot, so I don't mind that as well.
Yeah, and Bour is one of those guys that falls completely under the radar most nights, just because, one, he's not a name, and two, he plays for the Marlins. But he can definitely get you a home run. He's got great power, so I don't hate that play. More so in tournaments, obviously, but absolutely.
Kansas City and Cleveland here at Cleveland. Carlos Carrasco making his first start coming off the DL. It was a hamstring injury. Only going to be limited to 80 pitches here. That's expected. So, we probably won't see him start an inning over maybe like 75. So you got to be really careful with that. Ventura here, when we're looking at Ventura this season, he's definitely had his struggles, and a lot of those struggles have come with massive amount of walks. Everything's up. Everything's telling us that, he's not getting unlucky. He's just pitching awful. So I don't want anything to do with Ventura, and I honestly think I'm okay with fading Carrasco. I want your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I am just now seeing the pitch count of 80. So that changes a lot for me, actually. He was one of the only guys that I was really feeling good about, and now I don't feel good about it at all, because the problem is he is a strikeout guy, and his pitch counts can sometimes run up pretty quickly. So, and at his price point, which is pretty high across the industry, I just don't think that we can do that on his first start back. That is really a bummer. I'm with you. I think I'm going to be fading him now, and we're going to have to go with some of the other risky options.
Yeah, Royals, they don't strike out a lot anyway. I feel like the lineup's actually gotten better. They made up some call-ups, and Whit Merrifield looks like he's legit, and this lineup has just gotten better. They continue to produce, and it's just – I don't like taking pitchers against Kansas City, and I don't like taking pitchers with pitch count, so I think it's a pretty easy fade for me. I want nothing to do with Ventura. Do you have any thoughts there?
No, I'm with you. He's just been bad, like you said. It's not bad luck. It's the fastball is flat. It's still pretty fast, but it's flat, and that's not good when you're going to face a Cleveland team that's been hitting the ball really well. So I don't want anything to do with them either.
Now, like you said, Cleveland hitting the ball really well. I feel like they're an interesting, kind of sleeper stack here. Nobody's going to be on them, and looking at FanDuel pricings, we can get a lot of these guys pretty cheap, below market value, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah, and we're seeing, a Mike Napoli that thinks it's like 2013 again, or even earlier than that.
I was going to say, it's like, Mike Napoli of like 2010.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty incredible. And the thing is, they're hitting the home runs. A lot of their runs have come off the long ball. So for fantasy purposes, obviously that's even better. The Royals are a team that will string together a single, stolen base, another single, and you got to run. Well, Kipnis, Napoli, Santana, these guys are all hitting home runs to put the runs on the board. So I do have interest in, a lot of those guys. We'll have to see what the lineup looks like. I really like, I know it sounds crazy, but I really like Santana leading off against righties. I just think he's getting protection from, the heart of the order, and it's working out for him. So he's a guy that I'll definitely have my eye on. I'm hoping they put him back up top and or keep him there. And, even Napoli hitting cleanup, it's crazy, but he's been hitting really well. It's hard not to, it's hard to go away from guys when they're hitting the ball this hard.
Yeah, and if we're looking at Napoli lately, just a ton of home runs, like home runs in 4 of his last 6 games. Like, you can even put it on a wider scale and 5 home runs in his last 9 games. So the guy's hitting with power right now. So I definitely agree with you there on Napoli. If you want to be different in, taking Cleveland players, take Napoli over Santana. That's just something that a lot of people are going to do. I do agree with you. I like Santana. I like Kipnis. Any Kansas City bats that you want to target here?
You know, for the same reason I just said, like it's hard to play them because of their style. They're not a really they'll score runs, but they're not really good for fantasy purposes. They have their moments. Moustakas was a guy that, like, the only guy that I actually would play on a routine basis, and he's obviously out. So I have not played Arroyo a lot at all lately, and I don't think I'm going to tonight either.
Yeah, those are all definitely fair points. I'll continue to play Merrifield until his price catches up with his production. He's hitting 360 since getting called up. Multiple hits in like 7 out of his last 10 games. So if you want a cheap outfielder on FanDuel, 2,800 is just too cheap for a guy that's batting second and against a pitcher that's having a pitch count. So you might get to the bullpen early, like Andrew said. He's a strikeout pitcher. Don't be shocked if in the 5th inning, Carrasco's out of there. So I like Merrifield a lot here. And he showed he could do it against Archer. So if he could do it against Archer, he could do it against Carrasco. New York at Detroit, Michael Pineda and Matt Boyd, 2 barn burners here. You want all these guys, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Pineda actually has the highest K percentage of any pitcher going, career numbers at least, going tonight. So we want all the Pineda, right?
Yeah, I'm going to stack Detroit again. I've stacked Detroit, I feel like, every day for the last, 4 or 5 days. And, it's paid off a couple times, but when we look at Pineda, he's a guy that has a pretty high hard contact rate to righties, high WOBA, high BABIP, and he's a fly ball guy at 37%. So when you're looking at Detroit's lineup, they're just stacked with righties. The one thing that I do worry about, they did play in Los Angeles on Wednesday, and they're flying back, to Detroit on Thursday. Wouldn't be shocked if we see maybe some of these veterans like Miguel Cabrera or Victor Martinez out of the lineup, which would kind of, fault me a little bit on my stack. But, then we might see guys like Maben or some of these other guys get really good lineup spots.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I was joking about Pineda.
I know you were.
No, I know. I want the people that are listening to know that because I don't want to get blown up, I'm with you on I wouldn't be surprised if they rest, a guy or two here. I feel like pretty much 1 through 7, we'll have to see how they do it. But Castellanos is a guy that is very underrated, in my opinion, for fantasy purposes. And he's a guy that I probably would key in on here. Maben, like you said, he's been getting the job done. And when he gets on base, he's not messing around. He's going to try to swipe second. So those points add up real fast. Detroit is definitely an interesting team, and while they do strike out a lot, they also are a team that can, much like Houston, they can put up the runs quickly.
Castellanos, 6,900 on Fantasy Draft. He's my second of third plays that I want to look at over on Fantasy Draft. He's been hitting in the 5 spot against righties. The guy is mashing right-handed pitching. He had 3 hits again on Wednesday night. I just continue to play him, and I'm just I recommended him yesterday, and his price actually stayed the same at 6,900. He's a guy that I definitely want to target here. Now, looking at the Yankees, it's so tough when we talk Yankees against left-handed pitching because it's just so hard to pinpoint these guys. Outside of A-Rod, who do you really take against the lefty?
Right, there's not a whole lot to like. So, I mean, Castro will probably move up. We'll have to see where he hits, but he's been hitting in a good spot against lefties, or they had been putting him. I guess he batted 5th against Happ on Tuesday, so I don't mind him. Boyd is a guy that's looked pretty good, though, so far. It's really small sample, but this year. And this is a Yankees lineup where we didn't really talk about it a whole lot, but is Boyd somebody that you would consider? I haven't really looked at his price everywhere, but I'd have to imagine it's not that high. And this is a Yankees lineup that has not looked good at all.
I'm not throwing a Boyd Nicasio stack with a Rockies, full-blown stack out the window on Fantasy Draft. And if you're wanting exposure to cores on FanDuel, Boyd's only 5,200. If you're going to attack the Yankees, you attack them with left-handed pitching, and at least Boyd has strikeout upside. he's going to give up a couple runs, but if Detroit does what I'm thinking Detroit does, he's going to have run support. So call us crazy, Andrew, but I think this guy might be an interesting tournament option.
I feel the same way. So that's kind of why I was asking you. I wanted to see what your thoughts were, but I think I will have him as a secondary pitcher in tournaments on this slate especially.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I am going to have some exposure to A-Rod. It's hard not to have exposure to A-Rod against the lefty. He hasn't done anything lately, which has really, lowered his price tag.
Yeah, I mean, he was out for a while, so there's that too. That always helps when they're on the DL for a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. I think the only problem is, like, I feel like they could almost pitch around anybody that they feel could hurt them. So there's always that as well. We'll have to see how it goes. But A-Rod and Castro are the only two guys that I would really feel comfortable with.
Moving on, Tampa at Minnesota, Matt Moore, Kyle Gibson. Gibson making his first start off the DL, which is a shoulder injury, which instantly makes me, stay away from a guy in his first start coming back from a shoulder injury. Matt Moore, I feel like Matt Moore might be an interesting play here. And the reason I say that is, Sano's out. This lineup, Danny Santana's out. This lineup's pretty watered down as far as, the lineup and, as a whole. There's still guys in this lineup that can beat you, but, man, it's tough to say because the Twins, the last couple of years, the Twins have been fantastic against left-handed pitching, but they're ranked 28th in WRC plus against lefties this season, and they're striking out at a 24% clip.
Yeah, they've been bad.
I'm glad you just summed it all up for me. Like, I just talked about it for like 2 minutes, and you just, in one quick sentence, you said exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, they scored 1 run against Manaea tonight. It's just not been a good season, and like you said, their lineup's even a little bit more watered down. I don't know that you want anybody really on this team. Definitely not in cash, and tournaments you probably don't want very much either. So when you have something like that, then you're obviously going to start looking toward the other pitcher more. But the only problem is Moore just hasn't been consistent enough for me. But on a slate like tonight, where you don't really have pitching, he is a guy that can give us the strikeouts. It goes up and down, 6.3, 3.7 over his last 4 games in terms of strikeouts, but I think with this Twins lineup, he's somebody that you can definitely look at.
Call me crazy, but I would not be shocked if Matt Moore is the highest scoring pitcher on this slate. Like, I know it's a crazy call and it's a hot take, but I'm not scared of anybody. Matt Moore's xFIP and Sierra are both a point under his ERA, so we're suggesting some, unluckiness, some positive regression, however you want to put it. The swinging strike rate is still 10.3% this season. Like, outside of hard contact, but the thing is, like, who's going to hit him hard? Joe Mauer's been hitting the ball well. Nunez is a reverse splits guy. Park has what we've seen of Park so far. He's been much better against righties. Like, I'm not really scared of anybody outside of Trevor Plouffe, and are we really not going to start a guy because he's facing Trevor Plouffe?
Absolutely not. And the thing about Moore is he kind of thrives on a lineup that will chase, and this is the type of lineup that will chase. There's a lot of guys in this lineup that will do that. So I'm with you. I think the strikeout potential is here for a big game. My only concern is that he hasn't had a game. Well, he's had a couple where he's only given up two runs or so, but most of his games he's 3, 4, 5 runs. And unless we're, really confident with the win bonus to kind of negate some of that, it's hard to really trust Matt Moore, I guess is the best way to put it. I do like him. It's just hard to trust him.
Oh, I don't trust him. As far as I can throw the pen that I'm holding in my hand, I don't trust him. Like, it's just like I have to take one of these guys. Might as well put my foot down with Matt Moore, who has strikeout upside, and Kyle Gibson, a guy that I feel like we could target some bats here against Gibson. So I do think Matt Moore is in a good spot to have some run production and get the win here. when we're looking at Kyle Gibson, he's pretty neutral as far as stats go. Not really great against righties, not really great against lefties, but he's coming off the DL with a shoulder injury. Like, are we really too worried about taking bats against him?
No, I don't think so. He was not pitching very well before he went on the DL, and like you said, coming off the DL, it's a shoulder deal. He was giving up a ton of runs. No, I have no problem going with any of these guys. Brad Miller is a guy that I'm just a sucker for. I don't know what it is. I think seeing him batting up in the lineup, but he's a guy that kind of stands out to me in this matchup that I like. He's not necessarily the power guy that some of these other guys are, but that's probably one of the main guys I'll focus on the Rays. Who do you like?
Yeah, I like Matt Moore as well. I'm going to save one of the Rays that I really like here for a segment that we'll do at the end, teaser. But I have a guy that I'm going to call a home run here for Tampa, and I'm going to do it at the end of the show. So make sure if you guys are not listening, and it actually isn't Corey Dickerson. So,
that's exactly who I thought you were going to go with.
Yeah, no, I'm going to throw a curveball at you, and it's definitely not Logan Morrison. So it'll surprise you here. I'm almost positive that it's going to surprise you. Let's move on. Cincinnati at Colorado. Play every single bat. It's Eddie Butler, Alfredo Simon. These guys suck. Every single bat, 1 through 7, both sides are in play, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. That pretty sums it up. I don't understand how some of these guys are still in the majors. Like, Simon really shouldn't be a major league pitcher at this point, in my opinion. Or if he is, he's got to be in the bullpen or something. I don't understand it at all. I love the Colorado bats here. The problem is everybody else also loves the Colorado bats. So for cash games, that's fine. But for tournaments, I'm not saying don't have Rockies. What I'm saying is it's a good opportunity to run multiple lineups out there and be way different than the crowd.
Yeah, I'm all for going different in tournaments and being contrarian. Mm-hmm. There is no way on this slate with these two pitchers at Coors Field that I'm not having a game stack. I will take whoever the cheapest pitcher is. I don't even care who it is. I'll take a relief pitcher to fit in this game stack because just looking at Alfredo Simon and Eddie Butler is just so bad against lefties. Alfredo Simon is so bad against lefties and righties. I'm expecting a lot of runs here. And when you're expecting that kind of stuff, you have to be different as well. So what Andrew's saying is, if you're playing multiple teams, have your Coors players, but don't be afraid to go different.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you're making 5 lineups, you're going to have your Coors lineups, and then you're going to have hopefully your Astros lineup and your Tigers lineup. And, those high upside lineups outside of Coors as well. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm just saying, don't feel like you have to just play Coors, and that kind of makes this a little less fun. It's a good opportunity. And even if it's only a small, dollar GPP, test the waters with 5 lineups, 10 lineups, whatever you can afford. This is the type of lineup you want to do that. It will give you a good opportunity to be different. And then if Coors doesn't go off, you still have the opportunity, you have more of a chance to rise quicker, I guess, in the rankings.
Fantasy Draft did an excellent job with Coors here on this slate. They've priced up almost everybody is over 8K. So, kudos to them. Even with that being said, it's really easy to still get these guys in with 2 decent enough arms. So, just throwing that out there. They did do a good job. Now, I don't want to, crush on FanDuel here. I do like all the guys over at FanDuel, but you guys got to get better on your pricing. It's way too soft. You could have almost any pitcher you want, and it's really easy to, load up on these bats. So take that for what it's worth. We're going to move on to Seattle at San Diego. We don't have to talk about Coors Field too long. Wade Miley, Colin Ray. I'm crazy, but I actually like Wade Miley here. He's a guy that nobody in the right mind is going to say that Wade Miley is a top play, but he's a guy that could excel in a matchup against the Padres. The hard contact definitely something that worries me, but I like ground ball pitchers against San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like he's got not that great of a K percentage. He does have the ground ball thing going for him, and the Padres thing going for him. Outside of
I think
that,
it's more of just like the Padres thing going for him.
yeah, because you look over the metrics and it's just hard to like a guy. I mean, like Miley. Overall, his price is really low. Most places, that's another good thing going for him. But the reason that a guy's price stays this, or low this far into the season is normally because he's not that great. Um, I think we have other options. I know you like him, and you mentioned it before we got started that you thought, asked me if I thought you were crazy. The more I look at it, I think you are a little crazy.
That's nothing new. That's definitely nothing new. He's more of a DraftKings play. I really don't like him on FanDuel, his high price tag, even though Colin Ray, he should be a guy that we could target with some bats here. And, I do like Seattle to score some runs here against Ray to give Miley run support. I just love taking pitchers that are going to pitch with a lead. And I think that Wade Miley could be one of those guys tonight. I'm probably crazy. He's probably going to get shelled. I'm going to have some bats against him, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Do you have any interest in Colin Ray?
No, I think this sets up as a pretty good matchup for the Mariners, even though, the ballpark, not necessarily the greatest, but I just don't think, if we're talking about a guy that they're trying to limit, he's a guy where they're trying to protect him also. So I just don't like guys that they're pitching scared or what. I don't know how to put it. Like, I think they ruined Harvey somewhat doing that stuff, and it just messes with the whole psyche. So he's actually a guy that got sent down because they're trying to, work his innings or whatever a certain amount, and this Mariners team just doesn't match up well for him. So no Ray for me. Like you said, Mariners lineup pretty good. I'll have pretty good amount of them.
Yeah, when we're looking at Ray and we're digging into the stats a little bit more, the swinging strike rate is not there at all. But he does have an 85% contact rate, which is always something that I like to target. Career numbers wise, it's 85.7 with a 32% hard contact rate. So guys like Cano, Seager, Smith, Cruz, Aoki, all these guys are definitely in play for me. Aoki, more of a cash game play. He's not a guy that's going to light the world on fire for you, but he's a pretty safe play at the top of the order here.
Yeah, and then even a guy like Lind is in play as well. So, yeah, like I said, you can go with any of those guys you named, and it's probably not going to be a good day for Colin Ray.
Now, looking at San Diego, before I let you tell me who you like here, I'm going to kind of contradict myself. And my third play that I want here on Fantasy Draft is actually going to be one of these Padres, and he's 4K. It's Adam Rosales. I just love this guy against lefties. Siege talks about him all the time against lefties. Hit another upper deck home run against a lefty on Wednesday night. 4K, punt play. Then you can pretty much do whatever you want with your lineup. I just like Rosales' price at 4K here.
Oh, man, that's gross.
It's definitely gross.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Whenever I watch him play, I have to laugh. He just seems like he's trying so hard in everything he does.
He does. he hits home runs and he fully sprints around the bases. That's my favorite thing about him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be hitting pretty deep in eighth, or is he going to be hitting eighth in the lineup? Yeah, I think so. Hey, he's 4K. Like you said, he's got pretty decent numbers. I'm not saying I'm going to have him because I don't think I will, but that's why you're the big time GPP player.
Or the crazy guy. You can say it. It's fine. I'm used to it. Let me really quick pull up here's a tournament team from Wednesday night with Rosales in it. He on DraftKings 0.2%.
Oh wow, that's pretty good. It's to be expected though. It's Adam Rosales and he's batting 8.
I can tell you what he is in double ups because I played him in cash games too, but we'll save that for another day.
To be fair though, he was in a pretty good matchup with Paxton. So yeah, It's hard for me to hate on you or hate on it when it works. So I don't even know what to say.
Any thoughts here on Kemper, Myers, Solarte? Any of these guys interest you here?
Yeah, I mean, against the lefty Kemp, Myers and Solarte, all of them. Even I hate this. I'm just making fun of you for Rosales, and I'm about to say Upton. Just because of where he bats in the lineup and he's cheap a lot of places. Solarte's looked really good at the plate since coming off the DL. Or I don't remember what his problem was. Was it a hip or something or a hamstring? I can't remember. But he's looked really good at the plate. Kemp would probably be the guy that I'd lean on the most out of those four guys, but any of the four are playable in a tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, with Solarte's hamstring, he looks fine. I don't mind some of these guys. I'm not going to go crazy. The only reason that I don't like Melvin Upton in this game is he's a guy that I play that, I expect him to run. And Wade Miley holds runners so well. So I just wanted to note that. That's the only reason, because I do, like you said, I do like his lineup spot and stuff. And I've been playing him probably more than I should this season. But if I were going to tell you at the beginning of the season, Melvin Upton Jr. would bat .255 with 6 home runs and have 10 stolen bases at the beginning of June, would you have believed me?
No, I wouldn't have. But I mean, I'm one of those guys that really, I kind of adjust on the fly more than most, and I believe in hot streaks. And I really believe that, guys, it's a lot more mental at this level than people realize. So that's why a guy like Upton's in play for me, because he has been doing well. And in the past, I know it's been quite some time now, he's shown the ability to hit for power. He has the speed. You make a good point with Miley. That's probably negated a little bit here, or a lot. But he's just a guy that's cheap. He's under-owned almost all the time because of what he's done over the past couple of years. But he's been playing pretty good.
Now let's move on. That's going to wrap it up here for the slate. Let's move on to my favorite part of the podcast. We're going to play some home run derby. You're the guest. I'll let you go first. Who do you got?
Oh, man. Who do I have? Let's see. I'm going to go with – man, it feels like almost like cheating with Coors.
No Coors bats. That's a rule. You should know that.
This is only my second time. Oh, what do I win for? I won the last time. What do I win? What do you win when you do this?
You just
another appearance.
You add home runs to the co-host total. That's all.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Cargo. Or no, you just said no Coors. Sorry.
And I even wrote it down too.
I'm sorry. Let's go with. I don't know. Okay. Let's go crazy a little bit here. V-Mart.
Victor Martinez. I like it. I'm going to stay in that game. I'm going to go Nick Castellanos, one of the guys that I like for fantasy draft as cheap play. I like the Tiger bats here, so I like that call.
All right. Is it me again or is it Snake?
Nope,
here?
You again.
All right, I'm going to go with Santana. Carlos
Santana. I should stick to that game and go Napoli, but just because of what he's been doing. But I'm going to actually, look elsewhere. And I'm going to go a little crazy with this one. And I'm going to go – oh, man, I don't even know if I want to do it, but I'm going to do it here. I'm going to go Seth Smith.
I like it. I like that.
I'm not really a home run guy, but I just have a feeling.
He's got power. I mean, and he's got protection. I like that. Let's go with your boy, Big Papi.
I feel like Papi is mentioned on the podcast every day. Like instant play every day. Papi is in the home. Even looking at the last week or so, just written down here in front of me, he's almost picked every day. So I like that. Of course, obviously, I like that. I'm calling this one. I mentioned it a little bit here a few minutes ago. Steven Souza Jr. is going to go yard in this game against Minnesota, against Kyle. I wouldn't even say Kyle Gibson because I don't want to limit myself too much, but Steven Souza Jr. is my home run call from Tampa Bay.
Wow. Okay. What? Any reason?
Nope.
Okay.
Just one of those. I was looking over stats and I was looking at stuff before we got on here, and he just continued to pop up on sheets for me. So if that happens, it's usually a good sign.
Interesting. Yeah, Andy's one of those guys that likes to hit those random double dongs. So maybe he'll give you a twofer.
He better give me a twofer. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him because I think he'll be less than 5%. At the end of the day, if you had to pick one pitcher late slate to pick up a win, I'm not even going to rule any of these guys out. So if you had to pick one pitcher to pick up a win, who would it be?
Just to pick up a win.
Doesn't have to score the most fantasy points, but he's going to have a win.
I'll even go a little bit crazy, and I'm going to go with the Coors pitcher then in that case, because nobody I bet will ever pick a Coors pitcher. I'm going to go with Eddie Butler.
You're crazy. That's official.
I think he'll have a win.
I'm gonna stick to my guns here. I'm putting my foot down. Matt Moore is going to pick up the win here, and wouldn't shock me if he's in a bunch of articles that I write today, and he's going to be a name that I talk about on Twitter. Matt Moore, my guy to get a win. Andrew, thank you for joining me. They can find you all over incentives throughout the week here at Roto Grinders. Do a lot of writing. Man, I appreciate your time. And you still doing the grind down on Saturdays?
I am doing it on Sundays.
I
do the pitching primer for FanDuel on Saturdays.
There you go. So if you guys like Andrew's work on the podcast, make sure you guys check him out on the grind down on Sunday. If you like the podcast in general, make sure you head on over to fantasydraft.com, use promo code grinders, check them out. Hey, if you're checking out Fantasy Draft for the first time and you want some fun action, send me a game. My name over there is Stevie TPFL. I'll play you guys, and you'll see all these crazy picks that I talk about. Because you'll see guys like Adam Rosales in cash lineups because it happens. Trust me. I am a crazy cash player. I don't believe in safe plays. So thank you again for listening. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast here for Roto Grinders on iTunes. And we'll be back with Hoop on Friday, and we'll see you then.